Hey, True Believers, Englentine here. So, you may remember in May, they decided to relaunch Thundercats. And of course, they had a trailer with it, and it was received with less than open arms, let's say. And now, I said back then that I really didn't have a dog in this particular hunt because I'm not a Thundercats fan. That was after me, it's just not big into it. And it's the same with the She-Ra here. But what got me interested then and what's interesting now is the reactions to the backlash. It's like they refuse to hear the art is bad. And okay, well, anyway, I found this article and it talks all about it. So I figured, okay, let's go through it. Now, it's saying that the reason the Thundercats looked like that is because of the Steven Universe and Adventure Time. They wanted the pudgier physiques and everything. And right away, I'm thinking, wait a second. Right there, you're missing the point. Superman doesn't have to look like Batman. As a matter of fact, when he did, people were like, wait a second, that's not Superman. I'm talking about Man of Steel as far as that's concerned. But, you don't draw Adventure Time and Steven Universe like Thundercats, and you don't draw Thundercats like Steven Universe and Adventure Time. They're two different things. They're two different worlds and universes. Well, in a similar vein to the complaints Thundercats Roar attracted, a contingent of men and some women have flipped out about the shape of the teenage heroine's body and face when it comes to She-Ra, dubbing her androgynous Ra. They've pointed to the absence of makeup on her face, her squarer jaw, flatter chest, and lack of curves as evidence the show's creators are toning down the original's femininity, which, judging by the level of vitriol over fairly minor changes, was apparently the character's sole appeal. Wrong. Now, of course, yes, the lack of femininity is a problem. And once again, I'm going to point to the fact that we've been through this a million times. You do not have to get rid of a woman's femininity to make her strong. For some reason, these people who say they're I can't even, feminists, see femininity as a bad thing. I just don't get it. I do not get that. Well, the article goes on to say, actually, they're not entirely wrong. Back in the early 80s, She-Ra's main appeal was her femininity. Really? I think that's to the writer. I would love to hear from She-Ra fans, both men and women, if her being a woman was what drew you to her. But only insofar, okay, well, maybe I spoke too soon, as that she was a she. In Netflix docuseries The Toys That Made Us, former Mattel CEO Jill Barrett explains that She-Ra was created to capitalize on the 20% of the He-Man and Masters of the Universe fans that were female. Okay, that makes sense. And unofficially, she also wanted to make sure that Barbie, the company's golden goose, was no longer being outshined by a bunch of bodybuilding boy toys. All right, that kind of makes sense as well. A battlefield that He-Man's creators were more than willing to meet the women on, refusing to let She-Ra match her twin brother in size or stature for fear that the estrogen, he's a rhyming demon, Eternian prince would be made to look like a wimp. Even when the princess was in her infancy, her body was being controlled by a bunch of disgruntled men. Wrong. Because back then, we didn't have the fucking hang-ups about femininity that kids do today. That women do today. And by that I mean the feminist activists. There were no body hang-ups like that. Oh, I look like a woman, therefore I'm bad, was never something you heard. As a matter of fact, girls like girl toys, boys like boy toys. That was understood and accepted. And guess what? If girls like boy toys and guys like girl toys, hey, you know what? Big fucking deal. Nobody freaking cared, and nobody had to have 16 different names for it. It's just tomboy, effeminate, big damn deal. All right, She-Ra's creator at Mattel had to settle for releasing a toy that was essentially a Barbie doll with a sword and limbs posable enough to allow for more than just going to veterinarian school or holidaying in Malibu. Now, right away, this article is taking back then it was bad because she looked like a woman. I mean, you could tell. Right here it said they had to settle for releasing a toy that was essentially a Barbie doll with a sword. Okay? If it looks like anything, if it looks like a woman at all, they had to settle. So back in the day, Mattel was settling. They didn't want to make a feminine-looking female. They just had to settle. You gotta. I always say, when you're reading articles, when you're hearing the arguments the others are make, listen for these little details that they put into it, because this is such a biased article, and I understand. Most media is biased, but this is what I'm saying. A lot of people get hung up when they're arguing with people in the wrong details. This is what that person's saying right here. This incredibly biased thing. Okay, so where am I? It wasn't until after her design and name were settled on that J. Michael Straczynski was tapped to create a backstory for the character under the guidance of Larry DiTillo, keeper of the He-Man Bible, so that she could make her cartoon debut. Okay, Straczynski's cool. But Straczynski goes on to say, "We never considered or wrote She-Ra to be the ideal woman," Straczynski recently tweeted. "We considered her a warrior first and foremost. Anyone looking back at She-Ra as the ideal woman is doing so through the lens of prepubescent, since it was aimed at kids' interests. Get it? But that wasn't the creative intent." Okay, so once again, if you're looking back and you're seeing the art is better than what you're seeing now, it's through a prepubescent lens, because once they're only able to sexualize her. If you look feminine, it's a sexual thing. It isn't a gender thing. It's not something to separate by, oh, well, that art is better than this. You look like a woman, he looks like a man. And mind you, also, these are the people that by separating female and male, you're doing a bad thing. So it says, regardless of writing, the lack of freedom for Barbie Brigade at Mattel meant She-Ra's original proportions were that of the idealized young woman whose spine would collapse under the weight of her perky plastic chest if she were real. Now, there are people who look like that, so fuck off. Though She-Ra is now considered to be a flawed feminist icon, no, she's not. Only by the people who don't like femininity. It still seems strange that a character whose creation was driven by calculated corporate strategizing is today being held in such high esteem by the many angry She-Ra fanatics that have suddenly appeared out of the woodwork after 30 years of what we can only assume was a deliberate silence, awaiting the return of a character that many at Mattel blame for contributing to He-Man toy sales, taking a nosedive in the late 80s. Now that really is a ruined childhood. Wow, bitch slap, right? I mean, that's what they're doing here. You don't like it? Pow, pow, you were never a She-Ra fan. We were always Star Wars fans, and then George Lucas gave us more. Sorry, guys, you're not making sense here. Just because they weren't rushing out to make new ones or anything doesn't mean there weren't She-Ra fans. On the other hand, She-Ra's new look, which looks for all the world like a realistically toned physical... No, it doesn't. There's nothing realistic about that. And it definitely does not look like a fucking woman. I joked in a live stream recently that I looked like the fucking new She-Ra because I used to have this long blonde hair when I was in my garage band days. It does not look like a female. And then they bring up the boobs. Seriously. Who has been crushing on other people's spines since she was in diapers, just as Straczynski intended, doesn't have really big boobs. Hey, you know what? I remember one of the Thundercats being a younger person. Wasn't a female and didn't have... But point being is you can draw a girl with small boobs, and it'll look like a girl. This is a boy in a blonde wig. Instead, we just have reams of long, flowing blonde hair, a miniskirt, and the words she and princess in her name to try and work out what the hell gender androgynous Ra even is. Come on, Netflix, are you trying to lose the adult male audience that She-Ra never had in the first place? Well, obviously, they did. That's why there's this argument. It's not like they could turn to a wealth of other cartoon TV shows, films, video games, animes, or just about any superhero comic to get their fix of Saturday. You know what? Less and less. Plus, it's taking something that has nostalgia to it and pretty much destroying it, isn't it? But perhaps it's unfair to call out fans mourning the loss of She-Ra's sex appeal as sexist when they had the same criticism of Lion-O and Thundercats Roar, except that they didn't, because as Straczynski also points out, male characters tend to be idealized in form and proportion, but female characters tend to be objectified, only by you guys. Lion-O was called out. A lot. I was there. Didn't give a shit about it, but yes, I was there. He was called out for being he's not Steven in the Universe. She-Ra isn't freaking It's Pat from Saturday Night Live. Yeah, there's a 20-year-old reference for you guys to Google. Control over She-Ra's image and the images of similar characters, has become a rallying cry for older, largely male consumers who are frustrated the current trend of Western animation style doesn't call for the same level of definition in human body shapes that was fashionable decades ago, rather than recognizing that animation, like any art form, goes through periods of certain styles being more prevalent than others. These fans appear to be convinced that they've uncovered an insidious, I can't read today, conspiracy to degender cartoon characters. Netflix is clearly afraid of She-Ra looking like a beautiful woman, says Daddy Warpig, while, diversity in comics restored to homophobic bashing of the creator, boyish lesbian reimagined She-Ra as a boyish lesbian. Is it tactful? No. Is he wrong? Obviously not. So the article, by the way, thank you to everyone who puts me in a position of defending diversity in comics. One more for you, Rich. So the article goes on like quite a bit to say that, hey, we're drawing She-Ra to look like real people and the other one didn't look like real people, but this is real people. Isn't that cool? Because it's real people. First of all, that TV show sucked. A 30-year reference for you guys to Google. And second of all, if Rich just pointed out that, hey, the artist is drawing the character to look like herself, isn't that just saying like drawing to look like real people? And if you don't like it or you find it homophobic, maybe, just maybe, there's something to what is being said. Okay. Let's continue. Some adult detractors claim that it's not the fact that their sexuality isn't being catered to that's the real problem, though. No, the real victim here is the effect a teen heroine with an A cup, wrong, will have on the sexualities of actual target audience. See, right there, they keep bringing it to the boobs. The people who wrote this article, I gotta find the name because really I didn't look. I just started reading it. Sorry about that, gang. That's on me. But they're very obsessed with boobs, which is a lot better than a lot of people on Twitter were obsessed with the masturbatory habits of the people who didn't like this. Seriously, it was like, oh, you just want to fap off to the... God damn, you go to that before you go to it's bad art? This propaganda that girls have to be unfeminine has to end. Bob Taylor commented on YouTube, I don't want over-sexualized characters at all, another critic writes. But by making all characters under-sexualized, we'll give them the same self-esteem problems, but to sexy girls. Well, actually, if you think about what they're doing, and by the way, look at the arms in this on this character, does not look like the same thing as She-Ra. Anyway, but if you think about it, yeah, they're not going to be living up to that pudgy, formless thing either. If you are putting up a character as a role model, neither one of them are going to be ideal body shapes. Just saying. Let's see. It continues to say, God forbid a young girl grow up watching She-Ra and Princess Power thinking that looking like anything less than Barbie-esque. Oh, no. You want them to look like shapeless blob bodybuilders. You see, it's like I said before. You don't get to pick whether you're a role model or not. You get to pick what kind of role model you are. Sorry, gang, but you're fucking wrong on this one. Okay, so I'm going to read over just to get the momentum here. God forbid a young girl growing up watching She-Ra and Princess Power thinking that looking like anything less than a Barbie-esque bombshell of a feminine perfection is acceptable. How will she ever have enough self-esteem to land herself a man who was robbed of the chance to influence the media she consumed so that she wouldn't have to grow up to be too unfeminine to find attractive? Holy shit, you guys don't like yourselves. That's all I got to think here. How bad do they hate their own femininity? I mean, it's all wrapped up around what other people think. They're saying, oh, they want self-esteem, but they have no self-esteem. Unfortunately for them, Stevenson is instead concerned with crafting a story that is about a young woman finding her strength. Anyone looking for a strong but more curvaceous version of She-Ra will just have to console themselves by watching the original series on Netflix, which is probably a better way to honor the legacy of an 80s classic than sending angry tweets about cartoon breasts. Okay, I just looked it up. Name's Hannah Collins. I can only assume she's a woman without any shape or any feminine markers, anything like that. No boobs, broad shoulders, strong chin, hair on the chest. Everything that makes a woman, right? You have to assume that for what she's writing. And it's okay to make assumptions because that's what she's been doing all throughout this article. So, and I'm not calling to arms. I'm not saying go do anything. As a matter of fact, don't. Let's just enjoy tearing apart the article. So here's the biggest flaw. And I mean, this is absolutely the biggest flaw. You do this for nostalgia. Whether they like to admit it or not, what they're doing is they're triggering your nostalgia. People who remember She-Ra now have children. So they go, oh, they're making a new She-Ra. That's awesome. That's great. That's wonderful. I want to watch it and I can share it with my kids. And then the kids grow up. And that's basically how you can make a character last forever. I did it with my daughters. They know Star Wars. They know all the superhero characters. Heck, they know the monkeys and the Addams Family and all that kind of stuff. I took them to see Davy Jones until he died. He would show up at Epcot Center at Disney every year, and we went, and they loved his music, all because I shared it. And that's what they're working with here. They're doing this whole nostalgia kick, but before you get that kick, you need to attract the older audience. You know, the ones that know She-Ra like this. The ones that know her, as you say, as the Barbie doll, the vapid Barbie doll that Mattel was forced to make because they would have rather have made the androgynous blob, you fucking idiots. God damn. Now, without that, why are you making this character? Why not just create a new character? Why not name it something else? You didn't. You went for the nostalgia. And then you pissed on the people who actually feel nostalgia for She-Ra. Which I got news for you, dude. Yeah, it was made for girls, but it was still in that fantasy genre, which back then was mainly a guy's field. It is now, it's still today. But back then, if you like shit like this, you were generally put down for it. It's a whole different time. So you go for nostalgia and then kick in the balls the people who actually feel nostalgic for She-Ra. I don't understand that. Anyway, gang, I appreciate if you made it this far. I didn't know that this was going to end up being a 20-minute video. I really did want to hit that article because it just ticked me off. What's your opinion? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, once again, do not go after the author. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, you want to see more, click like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Also, this is the way we're trying to make a living. And I have another channel I'm trying to grow. It's called Mad About the Mouse. It's all about theme parking. Go on over, check that one out. And if you don't mind helping the channel, please go on over to Patreon, drop $1 in the till. The link's in the description below. It's less than a price of a candy bar a month. You'll help us keep making videos for you and help us keep the lights on over here. And we certainly appreciate everybody who's already done that. To everyone, all of the true believers, thank you very, very much for watching.